Hey all, Cohen here. So, I'm back home. So glad to be home. What I think I'm going to have to do is I'm gonna have to sit down and think about everything that went on in the last 2 weeks and make some notes, and then probably work out maybe at least 2 videos because there wasn't a lot that went on. It's just, like surgery-wise, there wasn't a lot, but there are other things that went down, like with my hotel and stuff. So, I think I'm gonna do that. I'm still obviously out of it. Yesterday was not a fun day, to be honest. Maybe I'll start just by letting you guys know how I'm feeling right now, and not go in reverse, but because yesterday happened yesterday and I don't have to think about it, I'll just explain my travels home, and then I'll go into going in the proper order from like getting to Austin and then my surgeries and what went on while I was there. But so yesterday, I got up at around 6:30 a.m., which was Austin time, which would have been 7:30 a.m. Canadian time. I won't go back and forth between times. I'm just stating about the time difference. Anyhow, so me and my wife got up, we got ready. We had most of our stuff packed the night before. The only thing that I really didn't have packed was my my medications and my wound care dressings stuff, all my medical needs. So we got up, got myself ready, had done all my dressing changes, put on fresh clothes, got everything. I didn't take a pillow when I went, and so I've never done this before. I don't normally do it, but I took a hotel pillow because I knew that I would need one for the ride home. On the way there, we actually were flying with WestJet, and I will touch on Hope Air because I am grateful, but there are quite a few things that I was not impressed with, to be honest, considering that it's for medical reasons, and in my case, it just didn't go as well as I would have hoped. So, anyways, we got ready, went down to the lobby. I had ordered an Uber for that morning at 7:15 the night before, and we made ourselves a coffee and waited for the Uber. Got in the Uber, ended up at the airport at probably like 7:30. There wasn't a lot of traffic. All the Uber drivers were really great. One thing that I do want to say that I thought was awesome was that we were in one Uber, and before we got on the information area where it gives you the person's name and what kind of vehicle they drive, it also let us know that our Uber driver is deaf. And so I thought that was handy. And then when we got into the Uber, the driver had some signs on the back of the seats that let you know that he was deaf, and that if you wanted to sign like thank you, have a good day, whatever else, it actually had right there on the back of the seat so that you could see it, how you can sign to say thank you, have a good day, and a few other things as well, which I thought was awesome because that I've never seen that before in an Uber. I'm sure that there are many Uber drivers that are either deaf or do have some form of hearing disability. So it was really, really awesome to see that. However, we'll move on from that. So we get to the airport, and when we left originally, like when we left to come to Austin, we were given the email flight confirmations and everything, and we were flying through WestJet. And obviously, like any other flight, if you go on to check yourself in and you pay extra, you can pick where you want to sit. So we were able to pick where we sat when we went to Austin. And the night before and everything, we didn't get any emails about a confirmation for our flight. And then my parents actually went online for me to try to figure out like our flight information, and the only thing that it was giving us was that we were flying with Delta. And so all we knew was that when we got to the airport, we had to go to the desk and like the Delta area to check in, because we couldn't check in ahead of time, and I didn't know the flight number, the seats, nothing. So my wife and I went over to the desk to request a wheelchair for myself and to also get our tickets. So we ended up finding out that we were on a Delta flight and that we would be going to Detroit, and then from Detroit we would be going to Toronto. So that in itself kind of was like, traveling back after surgery is not fun. So having this whole time thinking that it's going to be a nonstop just like it was before was kind of upsetting, but you know, it is what it is. And then we looked at our tickets and realized that we were seated at the very back of the plane. So once my wheelchair got wheeled to the door of the plane, I had to walk all the way to the back of this plane. And the first plane that we took to Detroit was quite a large plane, so had to walk all the way back. And then obviously getting off the plane, we had to walk all the way. And we also had our connecting flight to Toronto. So we got to Detroit and then we had to go to Toronto. And it was literally an hour, but because we were at the back of the plane, it was taking a really long time for everybody to get off the plane, which was frustrating. And I was kind of just like, could everybody just get their stuff and go? Like, I'm sitting there like pretty much shaking, squeezing onto a pillow, because landings after phalloplasty are not fun whatsoever. I was in a great deal of pain. I had an ice pack that I brought with me to the airport, so I had it for like a little bit while we were sitting waiting for the flight, because we ended up being there 3 hours before our flight because we were going to Canada, and that's the stipulation, that you have to be there 3 hours ahead of time. So throughout the whole flight, I didn't have an ice pack or anything. I was taking my meds, but I didn't want to take anything extra for the pain because I didn't want to feel super out of it or really drugged up on a plane. I don't like taking more than I have to. If the pain is that bad, then I will, but otherwise what I've been trying to do as well is take the appropriate pain meds that I've been prescribed, and then in between take a Tylenol and see if I can wait past 6 hours to take the actual prescribed medication, which was going well when I started doing that. But obviously, like, the stress of all the flights and everything and getting all the stuff, the good thing is that, like, because I had a wheelchair, I could board earlier, but it just was one of those where I was all the way at the back, and obviously I'm mumbling to myself because I'm in pain, and then I was trying to make myself laugh by making a really old Jeff Dunham joke. He has his puppet Walter, and they were talking about how he's going to be a greeter at Walmart, and like, what would you say to everybody if you're a greeter? And he was like, get your shit and get out. So like, I jokingly said that to my wife, and there were people obviously that were waiting till the end to get off the flight because they didn't really care. However, we had a connecting, so like, a bunch of people in front of us were already going and getting off because some people were taking their time, and so we just followed suit. But as soon as my wife walked to go, the person that was seated in front of us was getting their bag out, which is fine, but while they were getting their bag out, it would have given me time to be able to walk by and follow my wife. and his foot was just kind of in the aisle, and I said, oh, sorry, like, I don't want to hit your foot, like, can I just get through? And he turned around and started like bitching at me and asking me what my problem was. And I was trying to explain to him like, oh, like, I have a connecting flight that I have to get to, and at this point I really maybe have half an hour to get there, and I don't know, I don't know where we're going. And my wife is like already like almost off the plane now, because literally there was nobody else walking. It was just a matter of this guy getting his bag. So we actually got into a little bit of a verbal, we just decided to cuss at each other. I'm gonna be full out honest. I was not in the mood. He was being extra while I was trying to, like, I was literally trying to say to him, like, I'm coming home from a surgery and I can't sit or stand for too terribly long, and I don't know why, but I was seated at the back of the plane, and I just, like, I have a connecting flight that I need to get to that leaves in like half an hour now, because all the people trying to get off the plane, it was taking so long that even though we got there on time and there's an hour to get to your next wherever, so whether you're getting your bags or whether, like, I only had an hour to get to my flight, and I had no idea where in the airport the gate was. So he was getting mouthy with me, so I got mouthy back with him, and as, like, whatever, it happens, we all get cranky, but I was more or less annoyed that I was calmly trying to explain to him why I was trying to follow my wife, because as well, my wife is my caregiver, so if anything were to happen to me, she's taking care of me. And I just, like, you know, it just really got to me, and I just told him to fuck off. And then so he started being mouthy, and I was just like, just leave me alone. Like, I need to get to my other flight, and I can barely walk, and I need to get to a wheelchair. Like, can you leave, like, type thing. Anyways, it's done and over with. Could I have handled it better? Probably, but to be honest, I was not in any shape or state of mind to deal with somebody who was going to just act like a goofus. So, you know, whatever. Got off the flight. Luckily, there was an attendant waiting with the wheelchair, and he got us to our flight. Honestly, if we didn't have somebody, if he wasn't, he acknowledged and knew that, like, we had to get going because we could have missed our flight. So he, like, zoomed us, man. Like, I tipped him because if it was just us, we wouldn't have made it. And I don't know, like, I guess we would have had to wait for the next flight, but I don't know how that works. I've only ever had one layover, and it was more time, and it wasn't for surgery, so it was easier, but it was very stressful, very, very stressful. However, this person was very nice, and he was like, don't worry, buddy, we're gonna get you to your flight, like, even, like, you know, don't worry about it. I'm gonna get you there. And I, like, from my understanding, it was literally on the other side of the airport, which always is how it is when you've got to be somewhere, right? So he got us to the other side, and our plane was already loading, but obviously because I was in a wheelchair, I was able to just, like, go directly to the desk, and yeah. So I think the plane was, like, at least halfway loaded by the time that we got there. So I was very grateful that the attendant did help us with that, and once we got on the plane and everything, got situated, but I was obviously in a decent amount of pain from everything. Landings are not fun. Trying to walk off a plane is not fun when you're seated all the way at the back. And on this flight as well, it ended up that the flight to Toronto, me and my wife weren't even seated together. We had to we asked one of the flight attendants that was at the back of the plane, because I got sat at the back of the plane. I said, I just had a surgery, my wife's my caregiver, and for some reason, the company that booked our flights, which is a medical, like, it's a company for health and medical travel, they didn't seat us together. And is it possible that somebody might switch the seats or whatever? And I guess the person that was sitting beside me was flying solo. So the flight attendant just like switched my wife into that seat and let the person know that. And my wife was sitting closer, like a couple rows ahead originally. So that got worked out, and she was very nice. And then she asked me, like, because the flight we were on, we were deboarding onto the tarmac, which the only time I've ever done that is at the Hamilton airport. So she asked if I needed a lift because she knew that I needed a wheelchair. And I asked how many steps it was, and she said it was only 7. And I said, you know what? You don't need to bring out a full lift for me. I can slowly walk down 7 stairs, especially since I'm at the back of the plane. It's gonna take a while for people to get off. Yeah, she like checked in on me and stuff, and then reassured me that there was a wheelchair and everything there. So that flight went pretty well. It was only about 40 minutes, which was good. It was, to be honest, everybody at the Austin airport was great. Everybody at the Detroit airport was great. And then we landed in Toronto, and I walk off the plane, and there is only one person that has like 2 or 3 wheelchairs that apparently is supposed to be taking me and like 2 other people into the airport. But I don't know how you're supposed to push 3 wheelchairs into the airport. So we were constantly like stop and go waiting for other attendants. And then there was like 2 ladies telling me how to sit down in the wheelchair, and like both saying things at the same time. And I'm trying to like get my stuff organized because I obviously have my backpack, and I had a carry-on rollie, which like my wife was a champ and carried like both the rollies and the backpack that she had, and I carried my backpack, and I had a pillow and stuff. So the annoying part, I've never had to deal with this, because every time that I've gone to Austin and come back and needed a wheelchair, my dad was able to push the wheelchair, and we just went where we needed to go and did what we needed to do, and it was easy, stress-free. Well, this time, I don't know what the heck, but me and the other people in the wheelchair end up getting pushed into this like area where everybody's just like coming off of different flights, and they're getting everybody to scan their passports and get their picture done on this thing. And my wife asked the lady, like, should we go do that? And she's like, oh no, there's other spots to do it. But then the other person that was with us in a wheelchair, they were like, she told them to go do it. And so we were very confused and just not sure what we should do. And then we were told that we were waiting for one of the vehicles that drives through the airport to take you to where you need to go if you cannot walk. So at this point, me and this other woman were waiting for this vehicle, and then another lady had come walking. I guess there was another one of those vehicles down the hall, and she was like, can I jump on this one with you guys? Because I've been sitting for 20 minutes on the other one, and it's not even going anywhere. So she hopped on with us, and we ended up going, I don't even know where we really ended up going. It was so confusing because none of it was familiar to me from the last time. Last time it was we got off our plane, we went to go through where you go through customs, and when you are in a wheelchair or you're disabled, you stop at one of those kiosk things, scan your passport, get your picture taken, it gives you the thing, and then you go by a desk where it says like, obviously like special needs or disability, and you go through that way instead of that long lineup. And we didn't do the long lineup, but the thing was, it wasn't the same. They changed it. And once you passed through that area, like it just became everybody. There was no separate lane or area for people in wheelchairs and stuff to be able to go through. So we ended up just like in a huge crowd of people and trying to like, and at that point, like once we got off that vehicle thingy and did our stuff, we didn't have anybody pushing the wheelchair anymore. It was like, okay, bye, see you. And even just trying to ask people questions was difficult, and not a lot of the people working at the Toronto airport were helpful at all. Found them to be more rude than anything, which I've not really encountered before, especially coming home. So that was a bit of a pain in the butt, and obviously throughout the day when you've been traveling, things build up, and if you are in pain, it makes everything worse, and just the stress level is not good, nor necessary, nor wanted. And so by the time that we were like leaving, we passed through customs, we handed off our little paper thing to the person and got to go. But obviously, like anywhere else, people don't pay attention. And I just told my wife, I'm like, push the wheelchair and I'm gonna tell people to move out of the way. And if people don't move out of the way, or if somebody almost bumps into me, then you know what? I'm gonna be like, excuse me, I'm in a wheelchair and we have luggage that we have to take and it's just the two of us. Can you please, like even when my wife was pushing my wheelchair, if there were people like crowding, I was saying, excuse me, please, like, excuse me, like, there's a wheelchair, can you just make a bit of room or something? But obviously people don't listen, so that was difficult. And then we were trying to make our way to the exit, which we did, and we were finally outside and stuff, which was a relief. And luckily it only took my dad like 10 minutes to get to where we were waiting. But I have to say, the amount of time that we spent in the Toronto airport, just getting off the plane to getting out of the airport, was the most stressful thing. And it may be, honestly, landing twice was not fun. My whole crotch region was just not feeling it. And by the time that we got off our plane, it had been almost 12 hours already. So it was just a very long day, and it was just very difficult to keep sanity. So I guess just my main, like, I'm very grateful, like I've said before in other videos, I'm very grateful that Hope Air was there to help with the cost of the flights. The flights out were amazing. They were great. No confusion, no nothing. But coming home, especially when you've undergone medical procedures, the sheer lack of information, the fact that we had no emails about our flights or what we were supposed to do, like no tickets, no nothing. We had like literally walking into the airport and being like, hey, here's our passports, and this is like the email that we had originally gotten for our first flights out, but nobody sent us anything for this. And just, I understand that it is discounted because like it's a free flight, I get it, but I think as somebody going through something medically and coming back home or whatever, I do not think that it is okay to seat somebody who needs a wheelchair at the very back of the plane, even if it is like, okay, we're an organization that offers you this and whatever. I get it, you know, but it just felt very like if I could have even just been able to pick the seats like we did the first time, but there wasn't even an option of that, I would have paid extra. I would have paid the extra to pick seats that were closer, just so that I didn't have to walk as much, so that I didn't have to deal with as many people bumping into me when I was trying to get off the plane. And also just, you know, the attendants that were in the Toronto airport that we were dealing with were just not friendly. They were not helpful, and they didn't seem to care. Like at one point I told one of them, I said, I really have to go to the bathroom and I have a catheter in. So like, I have a flip flow valve. I don't have a bag. I can't, like, I didn't go into full detail, but for you guys I will. But, like, I cannot, should not go pee from my penis right now, because what I had done, it's still healing, and I need to use this catheter for at least 2 to 3 weeks. So imagine your bladder is just like, you can feel it, like, to the point where it's like you have to go, but you can't go because the catheter's in and it's blocking. But if you do have to go bad enough sometimes, or if like there's a certain amount of pressure, you will have urine come out of your, I did have urine come out of my penis a couple times, which is fine, but the main goal is to use the flip flow valve with the catheter. And she just disregarded everything. Like I said, like, no, like, I have to go, like, there's no, like, it's just going to happen. And it's like, I had surgery to the point where, like, I have to use this flip flow catheter. I don't have a bag. And she literally was just like having none of it. She was so rude, it was ridiculous. But got picked up. There was a little bit of traffic on the way home, obviously. Toronto, getting anywhere from Toronto, there's always traffic, but it was roughly like a 12.5, 13-hour day, and it was a lot. It was a lot. If I have any recommendations for Hope Air, it would be that, because you offer medical support funding, you should really kind of make, like, I'm not saying put me in first class, I'm not saying to whatever, but if, like, give, like, when I left, do that where I have the option that I can pay to pick my seats, so that I'm not having to walk so much, because, like, I could barely even use my cane because, like, everything's so congested and stuff, and it was just very difficult. So even today, I'm in a lot of pain. And I just, like anything, things, it is what it is. It's done and it's over with. However, just in future, my thought for other people that do have medical things, I don't understand why you would seat somebody at the back of the plane, especially if there is no unloading at the back of the plane. I don't know why that is. I don't, you know, whatever it may be, but it just did not help with the whole day and everything. It's actually really sad to sit and be like, you know, everybody in Detroit at the airport and everybody in Austin at the airport was so fantastic. And then I land in Toronto to, like, I live a 45-minute drive from the Toronto airport if there's no traffic. And it's just like, so I'm home, and I get home and all these people are just acting like a bunch of assholes and not paying attention to anything. And everybody in the States was so much nicer and helpful and checking in on me and stuff. So it was really just, Toronto airport the other day was a clusterfuck, and I know it has been for a long time. And I know that it's like the biggest airport in Canada, so you're gonna have to fucking deal with that. But when you're somebody who has a disability, or you are, you have a medical reason that you are traveling, it's really, really messed up, and it's not conducive to what you require, I guess I could say. And I don't expect that to change. I don't, you know, I'm not silly, I'm not stupid. I get that it is what it is, but just my personal experience, my personal opinion is just that it was just not good. I was not impressed with my flight home. The flight there was fantastic, I had no issues, but everything considering the flight home was just, it was rough. It was a bad day. It was definitely a bad day. It did not help that I had to deal with 2 landings, I believe, as well. Like, obviously altitude affects things, and having 2 takeoffs as well. You know, not everything can be perfect. I'm just glad that it was a short flight, the connecting one. But yeah, it was just difficult. It was a difficult day yesterday. And so that's pretty much the rundown of what the travel was like. So I guess in a way, it's good that I brought this up first, because talking about the first point, it's like I have really nothing to say, but at the end, it's, whew, oh, I'm in a lot of pain after yesterday. So, yeah, that's what went down, and what I'm gonna do from this point on is sit down and think about like all the other stuff to do with my phalloplasty that went on during the like 12 days that I was there, and I'll make videos, and I will try to make them so that they are more coherent, understandable, and maybe I'm not rambling as much, because to be honest, trying to remember everything and whatnot becomes hard. And I'm sure that I've probably repeated myself, and that's probably because I do have to be on medication, and just recovery in general makes you kind of foggy, and I've just not been in the mindset this round. It's this time around, for some reason, everything was just very different, and maybe it's because I'm just tired of surgeries. And cross your fingers for me, cross your toes, cross anything you can, because I really do hope that this is the last time that I do have to go back. Emotionally, physically, mentally, financially, I can't afford it again. And this last trip was just, the flight home was one of the biggest issues, to be honest. And my mental health just could not handle that. It was a lot. So I'm gonna leave that there. And if anybody has any questions or wants to talk about anything, like always, comment below. Follow me on Instagram at transfellas. It's at trans_fellas. That would be me. And you can message me on there and ask me questions or anything like that. But that's going to be my video for today, and I'll try to get one out towards the end of the week, giving more information about what actually went on while I was in Austin regarding my surgery. So I hope everybody had a great weekend and has a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.